Okay, so in true Mercury retrograde fashion, this recording was a little bit choppy. The audio is not what I would like it to be, but I still think that there is really helpful information in the episode. So I apologize in advance for the quality of the audio, and I'm working with Anchor to try and figure out how to fix this because it's not just happening to me. But moving forward, I'll be doing things differently just so that the quality of my audio for my podcast is not so choppy. So I hope that you still enjoy the episode and can kind of look past the choppiness of it. Again, I'm so sorry, but I really do think that some of the information that was able to come through would be helpful. So enjoy this episode. Thanks for listening.
With Plan B emergency contraception, we're in control of our future. It's backup birth control you take after unprotected sex that helps prevent pregnancy before it starts. It works by temporarily delaying ovulation, and it won't impact your future fertility. Plan B is available in all 50 U.S. states at all major retailers near you with no ID, prescription, or age requirement needed. Together, we've got this. Follow Plan B on Insta at Plan B One Step to learn more. Use as directed.
Welcome to season 3 of Healing with Nama. I'm Casey, aka Nama, and I'm excited to be back recording episodes. Taking some time off to regroup, and I had a busy summer, so I just wasn't able to find the time to record. So I'm happy to be back and give everybody some new content. For this week's episode, I'm really excited because we're going to be learning about something I've been wanting to understand more about, which is astrology. And today we are joined by Jasmeen Wilson, an astrologer and Reiki practitioner who is based in Texas and has used her own life experiences to help share information about astrological topics. Jasmeen has a bachelor's degree in psychology and focuses her astrological readings on the spiritual, physical, mental, and emotional aspects of our human experience. So, welcome to the show, Jasmeen. I'm so happy and excited to have you on today to talk to me about this. One of the reasons I wanted to have you on today is because you are a Black astrologer, and I think it's important to highlight people in the Black community because I am also a Black woman who are making a difference in the spiritual community because I feel like it can be taboo sometimes. And I like to talk to people who are doing things a little bit um, quote unquote differently. So
Right.
thank you for joining.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity to be here to speak and share my love and passion for all things astrology, spirituality, and psychology. That's all my jam.
It's awesome. Can you tell us a little bit more about yourself?
Sure. I'm learning now, like how to speak more about myself. So bear with me.
Okay.
So, um, a thing about me, let's talk about how we got House of Chiron to even be a House of Chiron. That's kind of going to give you the background of who it is that I am.
Okay.
Um, so, born and raised in Austin, Texas, and um, I'm sure that most people know like Austin now is like a booming city, but growing up here, it was not that at all. Um, the black community was basically positioned to one side of town, and now that side of town is going under like some major gentrification, so we are all kind of dispersed and moved out in different areas. And so that is something that I also share with many of my black communities and whatnot, that we all kind of have that experience. um, But what got me into astrology and psychology was just basically my childhood. You know, we all have some type of trauma or some type of experience in our past that kind of puts us in the position of where we are today. It helps us to develop our why, you know, our purpose and our passion. And I come from a background where, you know, my mother, she suffered mental health, you know, challenges, and I don't think that she got the help that she deserved.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, you know, it's not necessarily her fault, right? Because one thing that I learned in my spiritual journey is that um you know, raising us and giving us all that they had, and we cannot demonize them for not knowing any better. And so, you know, from that understanding is kind of like what created my why of our community, you know, women, men, you know, black, we suffer in the mental health areas because we don't have the resources at a very disproportionate rate, that we are not seen, we are not heard when it comes to that. And also the stigma about spirituality, the stigma about astrology and religion and all of those things kind of keep us from going outside of the box to get the help that we need and that we should, you know, absolutely deserve. So that's kind of my why. And House of Chiron was built from, of course, childhood experiences that led into my adult experiences, you know, different choices that I made in my adult life, that I was basically just reliving childhood all over again. It wasn't until I developed that self awareness, enrolled myself in school for psychology, that I started understanding my patterns when I looked into my astrology and said, huh, I'm understanding why I am going through the same cycle over and over. Why person just in different, it's an energy, it's a spirit, it is something that I need to be aware of and work through. And so astrology did that for me, psychology did that for me, and Reiki is something that's fairly new. It's not as old in my experience as like astrology and psychology is, but it's fairly new to me. But it's been really helpful with energy healing and balancing, you know, just and healing certain aspects of myself. So all of that to say that House of Chiron has like a focus and a vision to be like this hub of taboo, like how you stated, taboo ways of healing. Because my motto, not one size fit all. It looks different for everyone. And in my case, healing looked like astrology, Reiki, psychology, and diving into spirituality in an unconventional way.
That's awesome. That's really cool. And like you said, it's not something that's always accepted
Right.
in the Black community. I think that's really why I wanted to start a podcast and wanted to start focusing on having people of color, especially Black people, on the podcast to talk about this type of stuff so that it's a little bit less daunting. Mm-hmm. And it's not like woo woo or witchcraft, you know, like it's just an alternative way to heal. And religion just doesn't work for everybody. For me personally, I don't feel connected to any religion, but that doesn't mean that I don't have faith and I don't believe in God. I just, the labels and the stigmas and all the extra stuff that comes with religion don't work for me.
Correct. Right.
And I don't think that there's anything wrong with finding different things that do work, as long as you're leading with like love and positivity and you're trying to do good in the world. For me, I don't really see a problem with how you get there.
Exactly. I love that. We have similar views. That's pretty good. I like that.
Yeah.
Because that's something that I kind of like struggled with when first diving into it. My fear of being judged about my interests, about what was actually feeling good to me, what was actually helping me. And no one should ever feel like that, you know, especially with something towards, you know, something that is actually like helping them, benefiting them, making them a better version of themselves. You should wanting more of that. And that's kind of like what society does to us. It tells us that we should be this cookie cutter version of what a human is and what a person does and what a good person should look like and should do. And if we don't measure up to that in any way, shape, or form, then it's kind of demonized and we are casted out or we're judged. And then we end up judging ourselves, right? So there's that inner judge, that inner critic that comes. And all of that is just embedded in us in childhood. And so still, I work through that. I'm not perfect. Although I'm an astrologer, I still don't know everything.
Mm-hmm.
Contrary to the comment, everything. We don't know everything. Um, and I'm still working through that aspect of myself of not demonizing myself when something feels good and it doesn't fit into society's roles of what should be good.
Yes, and that excuse me is something that's very very important to me. And I will continue to share that message. I'm just now getting to the point where I'm comfortable with allowing people to see this side of me, and I haven't, the people that are my family and that have known me for my whole life, some of them still don't even know that that I have a podcast and that I am a Reiki practitioner and all these things because I just don't feel comfortable
Mm-hmm.
yet with that, So it's something that I am working through and I'm excited to talk to you about. I think we have a lot in common. You have a psychology background. I actually have a degree in human development, so a mix of psychology and sociology, and just looking at a person as a whole. So that's
Wow, I
awesome.
love that.
Yeah, yeah. I just, I feel that psychology and sociology on their own kind of are one sided. That's
Mm-hmm.
just my view.
Mm-hmm.
So when you mix them together, you can really get a good view of the full person, their social aspects, the things that were going on around them in their environment, things that were out of
Mm-hmm.
their control, things that are genetically, just going to happen for them. So it's just people are very complex and I find them so interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that human development was the way to go for me. Um, yeah. So how did you end up learning more about astrology?
Okay, so of course, we grew up knowing horoscopes and the typical kind of reading and whatnot. And my mom, she actually practiced a little bit of astrology, so I would hear it from her here and there, but it wasn't like. Also, my mom, she, practiced, candle magic and things like that, but it was also
Mm-hmm.
demonized in the family and in our, environment that she did that. She became like this very woo woo woman that was either feared or rejected. And so even I, and so parts of me rejected her as well, right? So I
Mm-hmm.
got into it because I got into astrology during my Saturn return. Saturn will always, I can go into detail on that a little bit, but Saturn, when it comes back to the exact same spot that it was when the universe has, signs and aspects, and it's at certain
Mm-hmm.
degree. And it's kind of like you take a snapshot of that and that maps out your life. And so that's a natal chart, right? That's how you get your natal chart. And so that Saturn return every 28 and a same spot that it was when you were born, and it puts you through the test. It makes you face your fears. You'll see, like when you're in your 50s, it's that energy, midlife crisis kind of energy for most people. So you'll see that happening. That's a Saturn return, in your 50s and whatnot,
Mm-hmm.
and it kind of like makes you go back and rebuild what isn't working for your path, right? Where you're trying to go, what you're trying to create and your actual quote unquote destiny, right? So it'll take things away. It'll say to be here for them. Saturn is all about longevity, and if something is not going to stand the test of time, because also Saturn rules
Mm-hmm.
time, then it will remove it. It will put it through the test, and it will take it away. And I have Saturn and Scorpio in my seventh house, so when you and put them together, that was a divorce, that was filing bankruptcy, that was going homeless, that was all of the seventh house Scorpio energies, me facing my fears of not having enough to take care of my children, me not having the resources, me being single and trying to rebuild my life and not knowing what to do. And I had to face all those fears. And I got into astrology because it was a crisis. I was in mid crisis and I didn't understand what was going on. Something was
Mm-hmm.
tugging at me. Spirituality was tugging at me. So, one YouTube video about ancestry, deconstruction of Christianity and of religion led to astrology, because there's some type of similarities within the Bible as well as within astrology, and so that led to one
Mm-hmm.
thing, put me down a whole rabbit hole. Now I'm in school for psychology, and now here we are.
Wow, that's so interesting. I always find people's stories. I just love learning about people and how they got to where they are because it's interesting, and especially when you start to open up to your spiritual gifts and the way that the universe does affect us.
Right.
Um, it does play a part, whether people want to admit that or not. It makes sense, and it's not just something made up. It actually makes sense when you look at people's lives. It's like, oh, okay, this is why this is happening. It's like if you just and accept that that's what's happening, you can be opened up to a whole, you know, list of things that you could be doing differently.
Mm-hmm. So
Um,
astrology, I'm sorry to interrupt, but it's so
oh
interesting,
no,
like
no worries, you're fine.
astrology, it has so many different types of astrology. Like you have medical astrology, you have Vedic astrology, Western traditional, you have all these different types of astrology, and they all help you with different things. And like even medical astrology tells me what it is that I need to do, like in the optimal amount of health, right? To stay the most healthy, I need to make sure I have these sets of things. I need to make sure my mindset is in this way, or I'm doing these type of activities. And it's like if we utilize that system, I mean, like we would not have the issues that we're having right now in um, the health we're under. So I just find it that if people would not see it as a belief system, because I don't see astrology as a belief system. Like I don't believe in astrology. I follow astrology. It's more so a language than anything. It's more so a tool that you can use to help you. But a belief system, I don't see it as that. So I think it's just kind of like that mindset of switch is, and the benefits of it will then come into play.
Awesome. Yes, I totally agree with you. So what are some of the basics you can give us about zodiac signs? So, when most people refer to their zodiac sign, they're referring to their sun sign. Is that right?
Yes. So the most important, you'll hear people ask, your big three is your sun, your moon, and your rising, also known as your ascendant. So you can use that term interchangeably. So your sun is basically when you were born, the sun was in a certain constellation. I So the sun was in the sign of Gemini when I was born. Then you have has a transit every through the zodiac, right? It switches from one sign to the next. So it takes a whole month, 28 days, give or take, for the moon to transit through all 12 signs.
Mm-hmm.
I have So when I was born during the season of Gemini under an Aries moon, and then I have a Taurus rising. So my rising is when the at the time that you were born, the horizon where it was in the born in the morning. Um, I have a early, so the earlier signs: Aries, Taurus, Cancer, Leo, so on. Those are the earlier signs. So typically, you'll have like an early rising. So when the sun came up and I was born at that time, the horizon was in the constellation of Taurus. That is how you actually like the world. It also tells you the trajectory of your life, and also perceive your energy and how you project yourself outwardly to the world. That is your rising. So your emotional, like how you respond to the environment, to the outside stimuli. It also can reflect your relationship with your. And, even if you're going to be a mother, you can even look at that in your chart as well, depending on your moon placement and your house placement. So, I mean, that's basically kind of like how it is, how you would need to see. The most important are the sun, moon, and rising. I mean, I feel like all of them are important, but the most popular, I will say, is the sun, moon, and rising.
Okay. All right. So that's good. Well, that answers my next question. That's awesome. um, so for instance, I haven't had like a natal chart, but I, go on those websites and I have my birth chart. I don't really understand it. But I know that my sun, my rising, and my moon are all Gemini. So what would that, as an astrologist, what might that tell you about me?
You see my face? I said,
yes, I've done it multiple times just because I'm like, I wanted to be sure, but every time that I enter my birthday, my birth time, and all that stuff, it always comes back the same way. So I'm just, when I tell people that, they're like, wow, and I'm like, why wow? What does that mean? I don't understand.
yeah, it's rare. It's rare that the alignment of, if you think about like how the earth rotates and the axis of how it rotates and where the constellations are, where the sun is, and everything, like even with the rising, like when in Gemini season, the moon was also in Gemini, so you were born on a new moon. So wow, that's very interesting. And you were born during the hour of Gemini, where the sun was rising during that time. So that's very rare. I want to look and see how accurate that is.
Yeah, please, tell me if I'm inaccurate, because I've tried to do it a couple of times just because I'm like, it doesn't seem normal, for lack of a better word. But I'm like, if
No.
you
I mean, I don't mind looking it up. It's now I'm intrigued.
Sure.
But that tells me a lot. It tells me a whole lot. Okay, so let's see. Oh, you are a triple Gemini.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. That is so rare. I have never read a triple Gemini.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I'm like, yeah. That might explain my life. So
yeah. Okay, so first and foremost, your sun is it's like sitting right. Focus is how you see the world, how you show up. It's everything. Like, you probably look just like your father, by the way, so that might be something.
Oh gosh. Thanks for telling me that. I hear that a lot.
But your mother's influence has a lot to do with how you project yourself and how, like, even like within your body, you probably have like your mother's height or her size or shape or something like that. But she has a lot of influence on how you actually show up, and what your values are and the things that you possess. And, she may have a lot of influence in regards to that because the moon is ruling your second house. So, yeah, that's very interesting. Very interesting. And how you see the world. You just need to be able to relate your environment. Like, that's how you learn, is through relating to other people, your environment, whether it's books, conversations, media. I mean, this podcast is perfect for you. So yeah. I like this.
That's very, very, it's good to get some insight and kind of put the pieces together because, I've had this birth chart, excuse me, since like 2020, and I just leave it in my pictures and I go back to it and I'm still like, I still don't know what this means, but I'm going to keep it because one day, it might make sense. So it's good to kind of get a little bit of that insight. But yes, I am a triple Gemini, rising, moon, and sun.
So if anyone asks, you can say I'm a triple G.
That's funny. Okay, so what's a simple way that people like me can understand their birth charts? Because I get lost with the houses and the Venus sign and the North Node and all that stuff. The houses are a totally separate thing, so I'll ask you about that later. But at least the birth chart where it has all the planets and all that stuff. How could somebody understand that if they are like me?
Okay, so well, first, it's kind of like learning a new language. You're going to need to understand it in the way that you actually can digest any type of information, right? So if you are better at reading books or better at, it's going to kind of like be in that way. But I know that site just kind of like a PDF cheat sheet. Most astrologers may have them on their websites where it tells you what the sun is and kind of what it represents, what the moon and what Venus represents and whatnot. But you can always kind of like dive into books and have an understanding. Have Venus and Taurus, you can see, okay, well, Venus rules these things, right? Typically in everyone's life, but it's in the sign of Taurus, and Taurus rules these things. So when you put the two together, it means that I have a combination of those two energies that work together. Then when you add the house placements, that's a different story. But definitely look for like a cheat sheet that will tell you your sun, it's about your focus, your goals, your vitality, your personality. Your moon is your emotional space. So when you actually kind of get an understanding of it represent and then what each sign represents, then it kind of starts making sense. And then you can kind of take it a step further because it's very detailed and it's literally like learning a new language.
Yes, it's very intricate. And I think that's kind of what's hindered me from moving forward because I haven't, I didn't know how or where to start. Because it just, from the outside looking in, it feels very convoluted.
Mm-hmm.
And, even like I'm a big TikTok person. So when people are trying to explain things, I'm just like, I just don't understand. Like, it's never basic enough for me to grasp, I guess. So this is a good way to like think about it.
Yeah. So I would recommend some books, but I'm actually about to start a series on my social medias that's going to kind of like dive more into helping people understand astrology 101, kind of like basic information. So most like if an astrologer is a really good astrologer at teaching and explaining things, you can kind of have like an understanding and a lot of aha moments. Um, but it's not necessarily the easiest thing to understand because I remember when I was getting into it, I was like ready to throw in the towel. Like, I understand that I know this and this, but what does this mean? My
Mm-hmm.
biggest problem for me was um like I understand the rulership. So the rulership is like the sun is ruled by, or excuse me, the sun rules Leo, the moon rules Cancer, right? Those are our two luminaries, the only two luminaries, right? So I understood that. And then, Venus, it rules Taurus and Libra. But then what happens when it's in a sign? That's where the problem comes in. It's like, okay, so it's in a different sign, so it has a different characteristic, right? So it's like the meaning, the characteristic, and then when you put the house, it's like, okay, how can I understand? So the house placements are just, I know you, but yeah, it's just kind of understanding what each element is for.
Right. Okay. This is, oh, it's 11:11 on my side of the earth. It's a
Yes,
good
and it's
time for me.
111 over here.
Yeah. So, um, yeah. So it's good. I know that when I'm done with the episode, I'm gonna have to like listen to it again and take notes and like really try to remember everything that you said so I can understand because I had a tarot reading earlier this year, I believe, with uh, Jay Alyssa, who I've
Mm.
also had on the podcast. And she was saying that I need to get more into astrology and I need to start learning astrology. And I'm like, I'm trying. I don't know. I
I
don't
agree.
understand. Like, yeah, I'm
I
like, I'm
agree.
really trying. I
I'm
just,
looking at your chart and you have a Gemini rising, right? So your
Mhm.
midheaven, which is what you're supposed to be living up to in this world, right? So like you see your ascendant more as the mask that you wear, but your midheaven is who you really are. So You have that in Aquarius, and Aquarius rules astrology and technology and innovation, humanitarianism, all supposed to be living up to. And your North Node is also there. So North Node is like your purpose, why you were here, what you manifested into this reality to do. And it's in your ninth house. So you might even become an astrologer. So just throwing it out there. And that's just based off what I'm seeing in your chart.
Yeah. Well,
So
that's
I
a
agree.
okay. Well, that's good to like get the confirmation, you know. So I think it's something I will actively pursue moving forward because I love to learn. So, um, sorry, I just got really thrown off. I'm like, wow, okay, double confirmation. um, okay, so yeah, the houses. So how the most basic, like if you were teaching this to a preschooler or something, that's how I need you to explain the houses to me.
Okay. So we have 12 houses, just like how we have. And so each zodiac, excuse me, each zodiac sign sits in each house. Now, depending on your rising, it's going to change where that zodiac is sitting in that house, right? So think of it like a wheel. The first house is yourself. The second house is it is what you have, right? What you possess. The third house is what you think and what you learn. The fourth house is your home, family, and your security, what makes you feel safe, right? The fifth house is children and joy, what lights you up, your hobbies. The sixth house is your daily routines and habits, also the work that you do. Your seventh house is other people and the commitments that you make. The eighth house is your resources and intimate relationships. It's also karma and debt and things like that. Your ninth house is your beliefs and your path, your sense of adventure. The 10th house is your career, public image, your public persona, your responsibility to the world. Your 11th house is your legacy, is what you leave after you've done all that you need to do in this world. And it's also your goals, your also friendships and networking circles. House, it is what I like to call the ending and the beginning. It is spirituality. It's the house of undoing. It is healing and creativity. So I like to call it the ending and the beginning because it also represents and it also represents death, right? So it's like the very beginning and then where you return in the end.
Wow, that was a really good explanation. I feel like I can. That's a clear way of like putting it. I'm very cut and dry and like black and white sometimes, and I need things to be clear. So that makes it very clear to where I can go back and listen and like write that down, and that'll be a good place for me to really start understanding, you know, more because you know people that I know that I'm in spirituality, and I'll be like, oh, you know, it's a new moon or something like that, and they're like, well, what does that mean? And I'm like, I don't really know, but I heard that on Instagram and stuff. Like, I don't really know what it means. So people are curious about it and they think that I'm the person to ask. So I would like to be able to answer those questions, you know, because I'm already kind of in that realm. So what, sorry, the last thing that one of the last things that I wanted to ask you was about moons. So new moon, full moon, Mercury retrograde, which you're in right now. What can you speak on about those things?
Okay, so new moons. It is when the sun and moon come into a conjunction. So a conjunction is just another term for an aspect that we have when two or more planets are in the same sign at the same degree. So when it's conjunct, it amplifies the energies of those planets, amplifies the energies of whatever sign those planets are in. And when it's a new moon, if you notice the one moment out of the entire month, you cannot find the moon in the sky at night. And that is because it is right next to the sun. So when, of course, when it's nighttime, the sun is on, you know, underneath us where we can't see it, and that's where the moon is because they're right next to each other. They're conjunct.
Wow.
That is a new moon, and new moons are always on a spiritual level, it's a time to set new intentions for the next 6 months ahead. So we have a new moon every month, and if we're lucky, sometimes we have two, which is, once in the blue moon. That's where that term came from. So have a new moon once a month, and every month is going to be in a different sign, mostly. Sometimes it has happened where it's in the same sign, or it's been a very rare occasion. I believe that happened like 2020 or something like that, but don't quote me. Um, but that new moon energy, when it comes together, you're supposed to set your intentions based on where that energy is happening in your chart, and this is so you can have the like really amplify your manifestation ability, right? Because everything is happening in cycles, everything is about timing, and I feel like astrology is good for that. So say for instance this week we have a new moon that happens in the sign of Libra, right? So that means that it's going to be Libra season, right? The sun has moved into Libra. That indicates a new season. And the moon is going to also be in Libra. So they're going to be conjunct in Libra. Now you will have to go to your chart and say, okay, where does Libra sit in my chart? And it's in your fifth house. So you setting new intentions about your creative self-expression. If you were looking to have children, fifth house represents that, having children, or healing your inner child, diving back into the things that bring you joy, maybe like bringing back an old hobby or diving into new hobbies. And since it's happening during Libra season, you would look during the opposite season of Libra, which happens to be Aries, right? So 6 months later, we'll be in Aries season when we have the Libra full moon. And that full moon is indicating the culmination of new moon energy and those intentions that you set during Libra season. So you have a Libra new moon, you wait 6 months later, you'll have a Libra full moon of that Libra or that, previous season. So during that time, you'll be able to say, okay, I set these intentions to do X, Y, and Z. Like, say, you're looking to get into art or creativity of some sort, or your self expression, and you set those intentions at the new moon in Libra to say Aries season. Started doing like an art gallery, or you started, back doing a hobby that you once did before, or you was having a baby or something like that, and it's actually happening within that time frame. You can see what has actually months, and it's all in alignment to your actual timing. So sometimes we get kind of caught up when we are trying to create things that's just not necessarily in our timing, and it's because we're not necessarily living in alignment to who it is that we are, our own path. We're watching other people and seeing what they're, having and whatnot, or what society tells us that we should be doing by a certain time. It's like, oh, okay, well, I want that. And then we get frustrated when it doesn't happen. But if we stay in alignment to who it is that we are, we'll be completely connected with those manifestations and those intentions that we're setting. And like, hey, this is what I really want. And it's in alignment to your charts, in alignment to your timing. And then you can actually see those things manifest in that cycle.
Okay.
I hope that was helpful.
Yes. I'm absorbing it and I'm trying to process it all. So it makes a lot of sense, and it's like bringing me clarity because I don't do like a full like routine as much as I used to, but I've been wanting to kind of get back into like manifesting and doing my new moon, stuff and my full moon stuff, and putting it into that perspective of like, work with who you already are, or, work with where you already are as far as your birth chart makes a lot of sense because it probably would make things move a lot more smoothly.
Right.
If I worked with it.
Right. And then the full moon is a great time for releasing, right? So it's the time to trim the fat, let things go that has not worked, or to just reap the harvest, right? So think about, they use the moon cycles for like the farmer's almanac, right? So they would know what harvest to reap because they're following the moon cycle. So if you understand what harvest you're reaping, at that full moon, you'll be able to say, okay, this has worked, this has blossomed, this has come into full bloom. And now anything else that has not worked or no longer resonates, I can release that and let it go. It's not going with me on this journey. I'm packing light. When we have a new moon, you can set fresh new intentions.
Wow. Okay. All right. That's awesome. That's so good.
Yeah.
Okay. And then I'm gonna be having a lot of like aha moments, like Oprah says. So just bear with me because my brain is kind of like just my wheels are spinning right now.
Look, I'm a Gemini. I get it.
Yeah, I have to like, at the end of the day, I have to sit back and think throughout the day and like process things and really go back through stuff. So it takes me a minute. I'm not necessarily a quick thinker.
I get it.
And then the Mercury retrograde. People are very afraid of that, and it has a kind of a bad connotation. So, what can we say about that?
Okay, let's try and get rid of this fear mongering of the Mercury retrograde. Okay, so first I want to tell you that Mercury is your chart ruler. So anything that happens to Mercury happens to you. I want you to take care of that energy. Okay, put that in your pocket because you are a triple Gemini. You definitely feel anything that happens to Mercury. So Mercury retrogrades are just a time for us to review what is not working, to take a break, to slow down, to reprocess some things. You hear retrograde, I want you to hear review, revamp, revise, rest, relax, reassess. However, just kind of go over things once again, tweak them if they're needed. And then when it moves forward, then you can implement the changes that you were creating during the retrograde. Like, okay, I need to make a change to this. And if there are any like mishaps or hiccups that are happening, then it's just an indication of, hey, I need to slow down, or hey, this isn't working anymore. I need to try and rethink how this can work for me, or this is no longer bringing me harmony. I need to review or revise or remember what once brought me harmony. So that's kind of like the energy that we're in right now with Mercury being in Libra, and Libra rules harmony and balance and all of those things. So we are reviewing and reassessing in partnerships, our commitments to others, our commitments to ourselves, how we're relating to our environment and the many opportunities that could be presenting them. Lots of things are kind of coming up for review. And if we take our time to just breathe and relax and like process what's happening instead of trying to rush through it, or getting frustrated when things aren't going our way, it's really helping us to release control when Mercury goes retrograde.
Okay. All right. That's a really good way to explain it. I'm glad you kind of destigmatized it a little bit, and maybe people will be able to calm down a little bit.
Please.
Yeah, because I think even when people don't understand it, what they do understand about it is all the bad stuff. And so it just kind of takes a life of its own, and people start being afraid. It's like, oh God, here goes Mercury retrograde. And personally, I feel like some of that energy causes things to go wrong because you're expecting all of these bad things to happen during Mercury retrograde. So it's kind of affirming what you are calling into your experience. And so, yeah, I've been trying to be mindful of that and not let myself fall into like, oh my gosh, all these things are going to happen. And just like, no, it's not necessarily the case. Let's get clear on what we want to see happen. And then, maybe those things won't happen.
It's like hypothetically, a lot of the times when Mercury goes retrograde, issues with your vehicle comes up because Mercury rules transportation and our cars and our daily commute. So that's a time for you to get your maintenance done on your vehicle. Go get your oil changed. Go check your tires. Just take care of your business. Small. We have an understanding of what Mercury rules. We'll see where these things are actually coming up in our chart. Mercury rules how we relate to our environment. It also rules our immediate environment and our like neighbors, literal neighbors. So It's like you might even have people that you once related to, and it's just an indication that if you don't want these people in your life, then maybe you need to block them, or maybe you need to make yourself not
Ah,
so available. It's just showing
oh,
you where you need to have your boundaries, where you need to revise certain things in your life.
okay. Go ahead and, you just read me, so it's like a specific situation that I've been really thinking about and like trying to figure out how I feel about, and I'm just kind of like, oh, okay, all right, I see. Thank you, universe. You sent me the message. I get it.
Well, Gemini and Mercury, they're the messenger, so always coming through with a message.
Yeah, I always am open to messages when I get them, and I always say, to people, like, focus on the message and not the messenger, because sometimes people won't listen to the message that they're supposed to be getting because of who it's coming from or where it's coming from. So I'm always open to getting whatever it is and applying it where I think it needs to be, and that was definitely one of those things. Yeah. So the last thing I wanted to ask you was, what are some good sites people can get their full birth chart or natal chart if they can't necessarily um, get an astrologer's reading, because sometimes they can be a bit pricey, or it might just not be realistic for someone.
I always say stay away from like astrology kind of culture ones.
Mm-hmm.
I would say try AstroSeek. Um, I know Cafe Astrology used to be a really big, like, famous one, but I'm really not a fan. I honestly am not a fan of Cafe Astrology. I'm sorry, no shame to them, but just not. And I recognize that now that I'm an astrologer and I have like more understanding that some cookie cutter and they're not specific.
Mm-hmm.
So, um, yeah, I feel like I know for me, I tried to, like, on my site, I made like it available for afterpay. You can actually get a reading and you can make it in payments,
Mm-hmm.
small payments and whatnot. And I try to do it to be, making it really say if you cannot get an astrologer, try AstroSeek. You know, Cafe Astrology will give you a free reading, but it's not going to be very specific to your individual chart. They're going to tell you like the aspects and going to tell you the description of what that planet means in that certain sign. But to actually like give you more detailed and go through all the nuance of what that is, I don't really see that being something important unless you're getting it written directly from an astrologer that's taking the time to write it out for you.
Okay. And that's
And that's my
honest,
yeah, that's
I
my that's my thing.
yeah, I mean, that's an honest opinion, and something that people need to consider, because I know even for me in the past, like just earlier this year, I tend to take things literally. And so see it, on this thing that's supposed to be telling me my birth chart, then I take that literally, and it may not be tailored to me specifically. So it's good to know that you kind of need to discern what actually makes sense.
Right. Because there's the general readings. Like, even if you were to go onto YouTube, and I do general readings too, also on YouTube. So it's like you go on YouTube and there's a reading for Gemini for the month of September, and it's just based off a general reading based on where the in your chart if you are a Gemini rising specifically. Because the rising sign tells you the actual timing of things, whereas the sun is kind of like your goals and your focus for that time. Resonate more so like on a career or your focus kind of energy. And then if you have like a Gemini moon, then it's more so related on it's like how you're feeling or what's actually going on in your home or with your family, instead of it being like an actual literal thing that's like for you specifically. Like, the most accurate reading I would suggest is that people first listen to readings if they're rising, your sun is secondary. last, right? So that way, and I always recommend to listen to all three so you get a very well-rounded view of the energy or the reading that you're getting at that time.
Okay. That makes a lot of sense. I guess I'm lucky because I only have to just watch one. I don't have to like bounce around. I don't have to worry about that.
Yep.
Yeah, for me, it's just like I just go straight to the Gemini because it all plays a part, and it makes sense to my experience and how I am, and just yeah, it just makes sense. Um, so how can people get connected to you?
Yay. So I am at House of Chiron TX everywhere. So that's HOFCHIRONTX for Texas. And you can find me there on Instagram, TikTok. My YouTube is House of Chiron Gemini Jazz, JAZZ, like the music. My Facebook is House of Chiron, and my website is www.houseofchirontx.org. And if me directly, you have my email, Jasmeen at houseofchirontx.org. And that's JASMEEN.
Okay, that's great. I'm so excited. I'm so happy that you were on the show. I felt like I learned so much.
Yay.
Just having you on here and having your energy and getting to kind of get to know you, even though it's just audio. It feels, you can still feel people's energy. And I feel like it was a really good choice. And I'm glad I've been kind of like not stalking you, but, like watching your social medias and stuff and kind of trying to see when was the right time to reach out. And I'm glad that I did.
Yes, I'm glad you
because
did
this was
too.
really, really helpful. Yeah, I
Yay,
like to,
anytime.
just keep an eye out on people.
Yeah, you gotta, especially since spirituality and astrology is becoming mainstream. You just kind of
Yes.
gotta feel people out for their authenticity more so than anything. I tell you, I live, breathe, eat, sleep astrology and spirituality all day long. My children probably are done with me. And I'm like, oh, you acting like that because that's your Cancer rising. That's how like, okay, the moon is in
Becoming
your
that
first house.
person.
Mm-hmm. I do that with
I think
everyone.
starting to become that. Yeah. It makes sense though, like, but I want to be more on point when I do it because, somebody tells me like, oh, I'm an Aries. I'm like, woo. But that's only because of my experience with Aries or
Mm-hmm.
my experience with Aquarius men, especially. Although, even though they're a little intimidating, I seem to get along pretty well with them. So who knows?
Yeah, it's the Aquemini. That's that Aquemini energy. That's really dope. It's the intellectual aspect that you get from an Aquarius. It's like they understand how eccentric you really are.
Yeah, and
It's completely different.
it's a different it's just different. I don't know. It's hard to explain, but I think you understand where I'm trying to go with that. Um but yeah, I'm thankful that you were on here. I hope that we can keep in touch. I think I already follow you, but now that you know who I am, I hope that
Yeah.
we can, stay connected. And I'd love to have you on another time and just talk more about this or anything, eventually have you on again and just talk more about astrology.
Yes, of course. Count me in. I am here. I'm going to see. I'm looking at my YouTube, not my YouTube, my Instagram right now to see if I follow you.
Yeah, I don't
What do
know.
you, I don't know either, but we can connect
It's
afterwards.
of course, of course. So thank you so much for being on here with me and sharing your knowledge with everyone. I really appreciate it. I hope you have an amazing day. And yeah, it's been awesome.
Yeah, I am very excited to have been here today. So I appreciate you and all those things that you've been feeling and seeing that, what I have to offer will be valuable to your listeners. So I am in full gratitude.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye.